All right, welcome to Frontline. 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin some breaking news from our nation's capital, where the Senate has failed to advance an Iran war powers resolution, as Trump says peace is within reach. In a 47-48 vote, 4 Republicans, Rand Paul, Lisa Murkowski, Republicans, Susan Collins and Bill Cassidy, voting to advance it, leaving John Fetterman as the lone no among Democrats. And another swing and a miss at Trump, I guess. Plus, promises made, promises kept. The Trump administration cracking down on illegal truckers. Ohio pulling 1,200 foreign truckers from the road. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy sending a simple message: not legal, not properly licensed, no driving on America's roads. And in California, pays to be gay. Golden State Democrats favoriting contracts for certified gay businesses. Whatever that is. The California Public Utilities Commission setting a goal that would send $633 million in contracts to only gay companies. Okay. But first, more violent leftists try to take out Trump and his people. I'm sensing a pattern here. Let's do this. All right, we're going to get to these two guys in a second, but we talked about how American this White House UFC thing was yesterday, and now we find out that the FBI actually foiled a plot to have an explosive drone and sniper attack at that event. Cool. 23 people who have been identified, 5 in custody, had this plan to use explosive-laden drones, like stuff that we're seeing on the battlefield in like Ukraine, to hit buildings near this event that would then force a mass evacuation and then steer crowds towards pre-staged sniper. I mean, this is like all according to officials. This gets even crazier. A second wave was then allegedly planned to storm the White House gate. I'm sorry, is this Libya or are we in America? Where are all the libs screaming insurrection right now? Just this plot alone is way worse than anything that was planned by Trump supporters on Jan 6. Like, that was, this is nothing like that. Yet it was the worst thing ever back then. Where is the outrage from the left here? We just didn't hear all these leftists complaining like, oh, this is the people's house. This would have been an attack on that. Where is this outrage? It's dead silent, nowhere, because they are the ones who have tacitly allowed this to ferment.
They understand that we have a Timu Hitler in the White House right now that thinks that he is going to become the dictator of the United States.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets.
Please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
We are in an era of maximum warfare. Everywhere, all the time.
This whole thing was on Signal Chat, which was apparently thwarted by the kid's mother, actually, that reported his sudden purchase of firearms and magazines and ammunition. 19-year-old Tyson Proper from Cincinnati, allegedly still at this point, spent $3,000 of his graduation money to purchase lots of ammunition and guns and extra magazines and that he was going to use in this alleged attack. And then he was caught. He rolled on basically everybody. The 2 others that were identified immediately as Brian Omar Roa and also Michael Allen Thomas, 3 first names, were arrested in California. These guys were kind of like an organized militia. Let's go through some of these texts. This is the best action I see. Position your teams in the purple dots, counter snipers and drones, long range, circle area, great shot, easy out into the river. Okay, we'll drop you off in safe zone. These are all the roads. They have all the details, screenshots with zones highlighted. Look, I did ops in Baghdad with less intel than this. Here, this actually went on. They will pick you up here. Read the docs for mission briefing posted above. These guys played way, way, way too much Call of Duty, but they were actually serious here. Here's more. I'd love to elaborate. Sniper 1, and then he posted a video of like overhead what appears to be the White House. Drone launch point and sniper's nest. Sniper 2 and drone launch point. All these things are marked. You can see them on the text message. These basement dwellers were going to massacre people. These are the court docs. Check this out. One of the guys arrested, Daniel Eskridge of Kansas City, Missouri, saying, I'll be on the ground leading from the front as one of the 5 snipers. I would never ask y'all to do something I wouldn't do myself, but I can't do this alone, so I'm asking for volunteers. This op is what we call the trigger event. The terrain is urban, but after this, we will have no choice but to go old school because they will send everything they have to hunt us. But if we pull this off correctly, we'll raise an army. No, you will not. Look, you think MAGA movement is strong now? If any group ever pulls any of these things off, God forbid, you're going to have an army of not only in defense of MAGA, but reflexively against everything the left is for, and we will guard against all of your unlawfulness. You will create a multi-million person militia against your movement. Today marks 11 years since Trump came down that golden escalator, and he's been dealing with this crap ever since then. We had Butler, where he was shot in the ear. Another attempt at his golf course. Guy charged Mar-a-Lago, got shot there. Guy got shot at the White House. He literally shot at the White House and got put down. We just had another gunman at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. This attack and how many others have been foiled, thank God. Again, the party of coexist stickers ain't coexisting so well. This stuff didn't happen like this under the last administration because it's these rabid leftists that are the ones causing these problems because they're not capable of winning debate or on the merits of arguments or policies. They better cut this stuff out because one day they're going to push too hard, and there's a bunch of us that are a hell of a lot better at the things that they're trying to do. We defended this country once before. We'll do it again. Newsmax's very own host, who are at the UFC event front row, Rob Schmitt, who's been shot at more times than I have, I think, at this point, and Greg Kelly, host of Greg Kelly. Look, you were at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Yeah. You were at this White House event. I mean,
luckily this one never got off the ground. They foiled it a few days before, but yeah.
I mean, they were going to funnel you guys out, high-ranking people, which you were in the front with some of those people.
Yeah,
and take shots at you.
Well, luckily I'm not that high ranking. That's the good news. But yeah, it's surreal how we're getting so used to hearing these stories, you know? I mean, this is not even really, I mean, go to other networks, this is not even busting into the top of the show. It's just, oh yeah, they were going to try and kill the president and, you know, a huge swath of the elites in this country and the cabinet. Meh, you know, what else is going on? Let's talk about Iran.
Well, listen, fortunately, these guys were, you know, goofy idiots, right? I mean, these are not sophisticated people. So we've got that going for ourselves. Did I survive an assassination attempt? Can I say that going
pretty
forward?
Much. Is that what you want?
I also, look, you're right about the rhetoric. We're kind of accustomed to it. But what happens when somebody more sophisticated, when, I don't know, Iran, when our enemies, China, you know, starts to hire people to do something along these lines? We don't know all the deal about these individuals. I would like to know more about their grades, you know, who they were talking to. Maybe it's not a bunch of goofy idiots. Were they talking to anybody important in Washington? I'd like to know.
Yeah, you brought up, you know, Iran and stuff like this.
Yeah.
You've got FISA right now. John Thune's pushing that through. Trump says he's not going to sign it until he attaches it to the SAVE Act. But Thune's like, no, we're going to push this through by itself. I'm against the 702, the whole Section 702. I think it's totally whack. Do you think it's imperative for national security?
I think it's with Trump in there. I can't even fathom the job of trying to protect this man that so many people want to kill. I mean, it is a surrender. And what we saw, you talked about the Correspondents' Dinner. I mean, that was so wide open. I remember when I walked in there and I saw all the cabinet members, and it was before I had even seen a security screening area. And I saw Rubio and everybody was just talking to the media. I was like, those guys could have been killed instantly. I walked in right behind Kennedy, and there was no security at all. You could have just walked in with anything. That was really crazy to me that it was that lax. And I think they might have hopefully learned a lesson that day. This was a pretty tight corridor. I mean, this was pretty secure. Would you agree with that? I mean, it felt like I went through a lot of military before I got anywhere near the White House.
I had no concerns, although I did look up a couple of times. The jets rolled in pretty loud. And
but those are on our team, definitively.
Yeah, for a moment. That B-1 screaming in, I was like, what is that? Oh, phew, it's our guys. Yeah. So, I mean, look, as we 702 or whatever it has to be passed, we all have to remain vigilant. I think that was kind of part of your intro. And those who are on duty right now at the Secret Service and beyond, they have to do their jobs. And I thought they were the other night. But every person, no matter how big, no matter how small, and that damn phone, you know, distracting so many people and making us very, very, you know, irate at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
So this is a distraction. I think distraction is an enemy, Carl. I really do.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, though, because we've been fed information at the rate of a fire hose, and 50% of the time, it's just not true. It gets community noted, or it gets clarified, or walked back. That's the problem with this flow of information.
23 members of this group.
Yeah.
That's a huge group of people
It is.
that they put together for this. You
Like,
wonder
a
if
SEAL
there was
platoon is
any
16.
informants on the inside of that thing. I don't know. They're saying that the main kid's parents called, but is there more to it? Was there somebody on the inside that got wind of this thing? How do you tell that many people about something this crazy?
Well, yeah, that's where we go
wild.
back to maybe they're not so smart. They're a bunch of goofy individuals, and you don't broadcast this stuff. And Signal, oh, by the way, it's not like invisible. And people
It's not
can.
encrypted that much.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, but I go back to the fact that they did get 23 people to get together and at least talk about doing weird stuff like this.
Weird stuff. That's a psychotic plan.
It is.
We're gonna drone the president's party and then shoot them as they come out. It's insane.
It's a big country, and as you pointed out, Carl, they're stirring people up, and there are people who actually listen and believe this stuff on MSNBC, MS Now, the New York Times. They're told that President Trump is a threat, to our way of life. They've totally exaggerated this UFC event, which was great. They turned it into a Hitler Youth rally. It's not those things. And I almost feel sorry for some of the people who are being wound up, right? They don't know, quite frankly, what we know.
Yeah.
They still believe these institutions that I used to believe, and they can see something like this and think it's the worst thing that ever happened.
Yeah, that is the problem, though. Like, how do you reverse some of that? I mean, we see the newer, younger generations, like the kids down at UNC or whatever, who raised the flag in front of, and despite all the protests right there, and they guarded the flag. Those college kids. There's a lot more college kids these days, younger generations, men, getting their testosterone back and saying hey, let's not put up with this liberal jargon. But how do we pull back the rest of the people that are already there that are literally think Trump is Hitler?
Well, when he got back in, you knew it was all going to start again. It was funny how the country broadly missed him when he was gone, and then he gets back in, and now you've got the politics in the middle is swinging back the other way, which is something I think I noticed. I don't know if you guys notice that, but I think that it's interesting to see where his popularity is right now after being in for just about a year. And I think it's more fashionable now to be anti-Trump again, and you're seeing that, I think, happen right before our eyes. I don't know how they're so crazy on the left. I mean, when they don't like a president, when they're angry. Remember how we were with Biden? Yeah, he's this old goofy idiot ruining the country. It wasn't like this. They get crazy. They get riled up.
One answer, quite frankly, is to pray. I really believe. Turn to God. Many of us in conservative and liberal circles, we talk about God as almost as a wedge issue. And I think he, capital H, is the only one who can get us through this. And it's important to go there, in my opinion, all the time, not just on special occasions, because all of this, we're all in his hands. And I just feel a greater recognition of that.
But that's why the left is trying to get that out of our schools, out of our kids, out of our lives.
But a lot of us have assisted them by turning away from it ourselves. Eric Metaxas once said, the war on Christmas that we all talk about, there would be no war if those of us who believe spoke and practiced and acted with him, and they wouldn't have a chance.
Deeper thoughts with Greg Kelly.
Potentially.
Potentially. Allegedly.
Lovely sermon.
Greg, Rob, appreciate you guys stopping by.
Good to see you, Carl.
All right. Coming up, Vice President J.D. Vance facing off with the ladies of The View, and he kind of held back, but not really. It was a good interview on his part. But first, the media is sounding the alarm again on Trump's gun policies. They're so dangerous, they say. Why do they always seem to blame law-abiding Americans instead of actual criminals? Wait till you see who's behind some of these claims. 2-8 Tuesday coming up next.
2-8 Tuesday.
Yeah, buddy.
A Social Security update. Millions collect Social Security, but 70% of Americans don't get their full benefits. Now, a new report shows how to boost your Social Security by as much as $188,000. Author Matthew Allen reveals 5 key strategies in a new report. Newsmax calls it the best guide for retirees. Everyone needs this free Social Security report. Act today to get your full benefits.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
Does it ever feel like society is going up in flames, yet people don't have the strength to care? There's a hidden reason for that, and it may surprise you. Testosterone levels in American men are at an historic low, and it's testosterone that gives men the energy to be men. Support your own natural testosterone production with Chalk. Go to chalk.com/TV1 for your $17.76 discount. Chalk's all-American customer service team is standing by.
My mom had her identity stolen, and seeing just how stressful that was changed everything for me. Now, I use the Experian app to check my FICO score and even get real-time alerts. It helps me feel in control. Get started with the Experian app.
All right, Two-Way Tuesday, let's do some gun stuff. The left, always big mad about this. Once again, President Trump rolling back some regulations, restoring, the God-given rights under the Second Amendment, leaving the doom and gloom brigade prediction as like some sort of catastrophe is on its way. This time, it's the Washington Post, where democracy dies in the darkness. Experts, the same people who call them assault rifles, warning that Trump's pro-gun agenda could lead to so-called mass casualty events. Because apparently in Washington, trusting law-abiding Americans with their constitutional right is scarier than trusting unelected bureaucrats with almost unabridged power. They neglect to mention that 93% of mass shootings actually happen in gun-free zones. But whatevs. But here's what is just like the so-called experts. They never explain. If concealed carry or carrying any guns is just so dangerous, why are the safest states in America also among the most gun-friendly? Maine, constitutional carry. No permit required to conceal carry. Consistently one of the safest states in the country. Next one, New Hampshire. Constitutional carry, also lowest violent crime rate in America. Same with Vermont, original Constitution carry state. Generations of citizens just walking around with guns, and guess what? Lowest number of shootings and better maple syrup than Canada. I don't know, man. Forgive me if I don't buy into the media's latest horror story on this one. Host of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company podcast, Cam Edwards, and Second Amendment columnist at Breitbart News, AWR Hawkins. I mean, Cam, this is just like crazy to me.
It really is. And this is, I think making a mountain out of a molehill. The ATF is required as part of their proposed rules to, put forth the pros and the cons, right? And so when it comes to establishing what it means to be mentally defective and prohibited from owning firearms, the ATF is proposing that, an involuntary commitment that qualifies. You having a fiduciary appointed does not qualify. And so as part of this, they said, this could mean nothing. This could, lead to a mass shooting. But that's sort of boilerplate language, right? It means we don't really know what's going to happen.
We could get hit by a meteor or we could not.
Right. And I mean, listen, you can say the same thing about every gun sale. Every sale of a beer at a restaurant could lead to drunk driving, right? But the gun control advocates are taking
every spoon could make people fat and make them die of a heart attack.
Exactly, right. But the gun control advocates are playing Chicken Little here. The sky's falling. The ATF knows that this is going to lead to mass shootings. It's utterly ridiculous, as you say, Carl. And really, this is something that, honestly, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised the Washington Post ran with this story.
Nobody is.
But folks should take a deep breath and calm down because it's not nearly as scary as they want you to think.
AWR, Abigail Spanberger really off to a swimming start here. $22 million firearms manufacturer, Rideout Arsenal, just up and leaving Virginia over the new anti-gun legislation and relocating to Georgia. I mean, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Right. I mean, same thing. And the thing is, Carl, you saw this happened in Colorado, relocating in Wyoming, relocating in Montana, relocating in Texas. You've seen this in states that used to be red, then went gun control. You've seen that in gun control state after gun control state. There's no surprise here, none at all. And I hope that there are other companies that'll do the same thing, because somehow we have to show that the outcome of gun control is neither safety nor economic stability. Right. And I think that's important.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Colt is in Connecticut. They should leave. Cam, Grant v. Lamont, this is my home state of Connecticut. They banned AR-15s with the 1160 bill after Sandy Hook, but Gator's custom gun, I mean, they've been listed. They've been relisted as that, I think, for the 15th time. Then you have Gator Custom Guns been relisted for conference 19 times. Duncan versus Bonta with the high-capacity magazines relisted to conference 18 times. It's the Supreme Court. 18, 19, and 15 times they said, we're not denying you. Just, we can't take you just yet. But they keep relisting them, which is a good sign.
It is a good sign. I don't know what's going on, as you say. If they were just going to deny these cases outright, I think they would have done so already. I suspect that the Supreme Court is waiting on the Third Circuit to issue its opinion in a gun and magazine ban case that will hopefully create a circuit court split. The real question is what happens if the end of this term comes and that decision from the Third Circuit has not been released yet? Does the Supreme Court hold on to these cases over the summer? Do they grant cert, vacate the lower court decision, send them back down, or do they just deny cert outright and then these laws are in effect?
Yeah. Well, that could be the last case is the worst case scenario. AWR, Rep. Van Hoyle blasting the proposed Oregon hunting ban as insane, which it is. You can't ban hunting. It's a right to life.
Right. Well, and what she does is so genius, Carl. She said it's not just hunting, it's fishing, as you know. She said these folks are going to ban fishing, but they still want to go in Whole Foods and buy a fish fillet. They want to ban hunting, but they still think they're going to go to the butcher and they're going to buy meat, because this goes further than hunting and fishing. She points out you could actually be charged with a sexual crime for artificial insemination.
But they won't charge actual sex crimes on our kids.
Like, I'm not lying. This is how the left thinks, Carl. It hurts.
But they won't. Yeah, but they want drag queens twerking in our kids' faces. This is so stupid. Whatever. Anyway,
it makes me so mad.
It does. I mean, we could do this segment a lot better if we had just a glass of beer during this. Cam, AWR, we appreciate it very much. All right, coming up, the libs on The View try to play the same old race card, and J.D. Vance was like, not today. Culture Clash coming up.
A new president is sworn in. America's greatness is restored. Millions of Americans are tuning in to Newsmax. Even President Trump says Newsmax is terrific. Watch Newsmax or download our free app on your TV or phone today.
Dear Dr. K, I used to think I was never meant to be beautiful. I was teased because of my teeth. I didn't like the person looking back at me in the mirror. I never thought I could afford dental implants. You and your team worked within my budget and helped me feel confident in the plan we made together. I love my new smile. Thank you.
Congratulations, Cynthia. Introducing our new lifetime warranty on zirconia arches, only at Clear Choice. Call to schedule a free consultation.
The Dutton Ranch. We're back in business.
You heard right. Let's go to work. I'm glad you're making friends, honey.
You're every bit as advertised.
You're damn right, yes.
Fighting the good fight, buddy.
What if losing a pair of sunglasses was actually fine? That's why we built Shady Rays. Every pair of Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection, but no matter what happens, whether you drop them in a lake, a wave gets them, they're covered with lost and broken protection.
Summer is coming fast. Get your best body now with Sono Billow. Just one visit is all it takes to permanently remove stubborn fat.
I went from this to this in just one visit.
Our micro laser technology transforms your body.
My shirts were extra large. Now I'm wearing a bikini.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 five-star reviews and is America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Call now for your personalized consultation. That's over a $250 value. Free. Call Sono Bello today.
Ever wished you could brew your own beer, but figured it was too complicated, too messy, too much effort? Well, now you can. Meet Pinter, the home beer system everyone's talking about. Fresh beer, brewed and tapped by you. No fuss, no guesswork, just brew, chill, tap, done. You can craft 12 pints with every brew. Crisp lager, juicy and hoppy IPAs, smooth stouts, plus brew beers from top craft breweries you know and love. From the first tap to the last toast, hosting just got an upgrade. Nothing beats sharing your own fresh beer with friends. You don't need a garage brewery. You don't need a chemistry set. You just need a Pinter. Right now, get your Pinter free when you join our flexible beer plan. Choose your beers, brew fresh at home, and tap into the world's best beer experience. Free Pinter. Freshly brewed beer. Zero fuss. Go to pinter.com/spring to claim your offer today.
Think you need a new roof? Think again. Most roofing companies only make money one way, by selling you a new roof. But what if your roof isn't worn out, just dried out? And with just a little love, you could put off an expensive roof replacement for up to 15 years, at a fraction of the cost of a new roof. Roofmax is a scientifically engineered restoration formula that brings your shingle life back to new. Scan the code and get a free roof tune-up with your Roofmax restoration.
Okay, Vice President J.D. Vance, like hitting this massive media tour, basically soft launch of his presidential campaign, entering the chicken's roost today, appearing on The View. Whoopi Goldberg resorted to doing what she does, which is the race card, and Vance was like, no.
What did black people do to this administration that has allowed it to really stigmatize folks of color?
I think everybody is welcome in our political coalition. Frankly, even if you didn't vote for us, everybody is welcome in our country so long as you're an American citizen with the duties and the legal obligations and rights to be here.
I would have said, like what specifically, Whoopi? But he was nicer than I was. He's just made it, not everything's about race. Newsmax contributor Smythe and host of Tony Katz Today, Tony Katz himself, who gracefully invited me on his radio program today that I think you should also be listening to. All right, Kay, it's just that, you know, J.D. Vance is the extension of Orange Man, so therefore he bad too.
Oh, yeah. Well, firstly, Carl, how dare you compare those women to chickens? Chickens are useful.
So, well, you know what? Hold on, Kay. They did have it written in there like the lion's den. I was like, I don't want to give them that much credit.
All right. No, I think, listen, I completely agree. I think this was a complete soft launch of J.D. Vance's run for 2028. I'm here for it. I think he was so kind, so diplomatic, and every single time he kind of gave these women an opportunity to clarify what they meant, it was crickets. Because you know what, Carl? I'm pretty sure those women can't read. Like, have you seen a stupider group of, again, we're not calling them hens, we're not comparing them to chickens, because chickens are good and sweet and kind and useful.
And produce something, eggs, that you can consume, and it's a product that they produce no product. Tony, but this is it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like, the stupider you are, the smarter you think you are. That's the view.
Well, we can argue that they don't bring anything of value in terms of political thought. They're not there to actually engage an audience or provide information to an audience. And the one thing I'm going to give them credit for a lot of liberal suburban white women, this is the first time they've ever heard J.D. Vance outside of a news clip from MS Now decrying the man. And for that, giving them this time, allowing the answers. Now, Ana Navarro did a lot of interrupting, but a lot of people, they were actually listening. You'll notice nobody left. Bill O'Reilly showed up to the show. They wouldn't even sit with him. They sat with J.D. Vance. So in terms of a perception conversation, a view, that's a win right there. And it's absolutely massive. And one that I'll give J.D. Vance credit for absolutely doing the show. And I'll give them credit for allowing it to happen. They may have hurt themselves with their own audience.
Yeah. No, actually, that's probably the greatest point to take away from all this. All right, Kay, this is why I resist the the ideology of like, we do it this way because we've always done it this way. Because Elon Musk, when he said this, he was worth $220 billion. Roll this.
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go yourself.
But
go yourself. Is that clear?
I mean, Kay, this is he didn't bend the knee, and now he's the world's first trillionaire. I don't want to hear also all the people who put us $40 trillion in debt like Elizabeth. No, he's a trillionaire now. He created 4,000 millionaires in like the second he launched SpaceX publicly. It's worth more than Canada.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a total testament to what the American dream really is. You come here legally, you do things the right way, or you're born here, lucky enough to be born here. You put in the hard work. You don't bow down to, people trying to blackmail you. But I just think it's magical. It gives me so much hope for the future. And guys, I gotta say, it's kind of cool to live through something like this. Like Carl, you know me, my opinion, my voice, all that stuff. I absolutely can't be bored. So to see someone stand up on stage and say that, it made me feel good. It made me feel real good.
No, I love it. And he's African-American, which drives the left absolutely insane. Okay, so Tony, here's something. Men nowadays, they're becoming this like soy boy latte drinking weaklings. I'm literally not being dramatic here. The average hand grip strength of men from ages 20 to 34 over the years, in the 80s, it was 117 pounds, 90s, 111, 2000, 104, 2010, 98. Now it's 93 pounds. That means the average person literally can't hold themselves on a pull-up bar. Like if they fall off a cliff, they are dying.
Well, the idea of them falling off the cliff is something that a lot of people in the Antifa group desperately want. So let's not give them any more ideas than they already have. Let's talk about what happens when you don't raise men to be men, when you don't push masculinity. The first thing I taught my boys was how to shake someone's hand and look them in the eye while you do it. And it is the thing that people pull me aside and compliment me about most. Look at what your son did. Looked me in the eye and shook my hand. That shouldn't be a skill. And it is. The weight room is good. And good on Gen Z, by the way. They're doing more and more of this. They're getting more and more active. They want the strength. They want to look good. And they want to actually engage the idea of strength. Everybody should be watching Carl Higbie's Tybo, where he will get you into perfect shape. Kay has been taking this now for 2 weeks. She can lift 42 million pounds.
Yeah, exactly. Kay, but this is the thing. It's like not enough men today train in the gym to want to punch somebody in the chest hard enough to grab their spine. That is the fundamental difference. They go to Pilates.
Yeah, and I think, well, it's not even just the gym and places like that, right? Like one of the things that I love about living in the South is all of the men here. We've got my husband who basically built all of the furniture in our house. He does go to the gym, admittedly, but he built all of our furniture. He makes sure that this farm runs. He's up at the crack of dawn. He doesn't go to bed until everything is in its place at the end of the day. I do kind of reject the fact that you guys just put up the Jackass team as like projections of weak men. Those guys do things that most men would never even think to do. Like there's just, I don't know if it's strength or just strength.
Shopping carts off ramps.
Crazy is different than strength. They're two different things.
Exactly. True. Crazy and stupid is a fine line too. Tony, Kay, pleasure as always. I sometimes stray into the line of stupid. But coming up, voters headed to the polls in 4 states. D.C. today is, well, not a state, but 4 states and D.C. The 2 Senate GOP runoff elections we're keeping an eye on next.
We've been building chainsaws for over 100 years. Now that century of cutting comes in a mower. New blade, same bloodline. Right now, save $50 on select mowers. Steel.
This is a bottlenose dolphin, and this is the breakthrough nutrient doctors discovered that helped dolphins age healthier. Now, over 100 peer-reviewed studies later, it can help you age healthier too. Discover how at fatty15.com.
As history's preeminent expert on emergency communication, I fully endorse Rapid Radios. They are the only nationwide license-free push-to-talk walkie-talkies without any monthly fees. That's right, you get access to most carriers' networks without a contract. With Rapid Radios, you can communicate instantly from this Washington to that one. Isn't that right, George?
Darn straight, and I don't lie.
Now I know what you're thinking. I don't need no fancy highfalutin walkie-talkie. I've got a cell phone. Cell phones are notoriously unreliable during emergencies and when you're in the middle of nowhere. Plus, rapid radios are great for remote adventures, emergency preparedness, and workplace communications, and for keeping in touch with your loved ones.
Hey, Pa. Over.
You make me so proud, son. Over. Get your family connected with Rapid Radios today.
Right now, every order includes over $300 in free gear. Go to rapidradios.com. Rapid Radios. Communication redefined.
Sir, he's here to see you.
So, are you ready to join forces? PCMax provides complete protection for your computer and smartphone against malware and ransomware, and it's 100% American-made and supported security.
Today, Cyberman and his unknown partner delivered a massive victory, protecting homes, businesses, and federal devices from ransomware.
Get protected now at PCMatic.com.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked, and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
All right, so voters are casting their ballots in 4 states as well as Washington, D.C. today, including a primary in California to fill Swalwell's seat, Oklahoma for the Senate seat held by DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin, and then the D.C. mayor, which nobody cares about because Trump came in and cleaned up the crime without her help anyway. But 2 very important states, Alabama and Georgia's GOP Senate runoffs. In Alabama, you got obviously Senator Tommy Tuberville leaving the Senate to seek the governor's mansion. Congressman Barry Moore and U.S. Navy SEAL Jared Hudson face off for the Alabama seat. Trump endorsed Barry Moore, who represented the state in the House since 2021. And then you have over in Georgia, no candidate secured the 50% vote in the last month's kind of jungle primary roll-off. So voters are going to go back to the polls to decide whether Congressman Mike Collins or former college football coach Derek Dooley will be the Republican nominee for Senate. President Trump has swooped in with an endorsement saying MAGA Mike Collins in this race. So who will Republicans put up for the GOP in November, and are either one better in the general election? Brianna Lyman, election correspondent at The Federalist, and Josh McKoon, Georgia Republican Party chairman. All right, I'll go to you first, Josh. Georgia, big race. Football is always on the ticket no matter what. You've got all these things going on. What's going on?
You know, we have 2 very competitive elections for U.S. Senate and for governor here. Our very popular Governor Brian Kemp has endorsed former football coach Derek Dooley. And of course, President Trump endorsed Congressman Collins over the weekend. And so we've got a big question today about what's going to happen with the election day vote. In Georgia, we have early voting for a week. In our runoff election, we had roughly 300,000 people vote early. But I'm getting numbers right now indicating we'll have over 350,000 that voted today. So it may be a tale of 2 separate elections. Same thing with the governor's race. You know, you have Our Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, endorsed by both President Trump, and then over the weekend, and what many saw as a big surprise, Governor Kemp tweeted out an endorsement for him Sunday, versus businessman Rick Jackson, who jumped in February to everyone's surprise. I think both of these races are going to be close, but I think they're going to come down to the election day voting, because I think these endorsements are going to have an outside effect on that election day voting. The question we were asking earlier today, would it be enough? It looks like it's going to be quite a lot.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's actually an interesting thing. Brianna, the issue with that I'm seeing with all this stuff, though, is the Trump vote is the Trump endorsement is very powerful. However, Brian Kemp, like Josh just said, super big in the state. But this goes back to a feud all the way to the 2020 election. You know, find me these 11,000 votes. It turns out there's 313,000 that just weren't signature verified. So this is a big feud that goes beyond the candidates on the ballot.
Yeah, this is a proxy election, so to speak. And when it comes to Mike Collins, right, this is someone who obviously is Trump endorsed. He's also a Trump loyalist. Trump obviously favors loyalty from people. And then you have Derek Dooley, and Derek Dooley is trying to position himself as a political newcomer with the backing of Governor Kemp. And I know Governor Kemp is somewhat popular in Georgia, but there are a lot of Republicans who also don't like Governor Kemp in Georgia, and they do like President Trump.
Right.
And so it's interesting because here you have a Senate race where Trump and Kemp are endorsing opposite candidates. And then in the governor's race, they're both endorsing the lieutenant governor. So it's almost difficult to determine how strong President Trump's endorsement will be when he's endorsing one candidate that Kemp opposes, and then him and Kemp are endorsing the same candidate. And when it comes to the governor's race, though, I will say, even though the Lieutenant Governor Jones is a pick for both Trump and Kemp, Rick Jackson is also trying to position himself as a pro-Trumper. He's donated to Trump-affiliated PACs and causes. So I think in that race in particular, no matter which candidate wins, it is still a win for Trump and MAGA because both are aligned with the president.
Yeah, Josh, let me get you on this. You know, last night, another network released a headline of the election that hadn't happened. Okay, this was actually really interesting to me. So former Navy SEAL Josh Hudson defeats Trump-backed Barry Moore in Alabama, which, you know, obviously next to you guys, the Senate runoff election. Like, is this like something that was like, did they just preload these things? But now that AI is pulling from these articles and now they're putting out these results, is this something that it could actually affect the course of an election because people think it's already determined?
Yeah, I think it's irresponsible. You know, I don't know why that's necessary. Here in Georgia, there's been recent polling. Fewer than 80% of Republicans have confidence in our elections. That means 1 in 5 Republicans don't think that the election is being conducted appropriately.
Wow.
And things like this just continue to erode public confidence in our elections process. That's why we're working so hard on election integrity measures in our state. We're hoping to get away from the Dominion voting machines we've been using, including in the 2020 election, because of that. And so, yes, this is yet another blow to confidence in our electoral process.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how that whole thing goes down. But Brianna, real quick, I got a minute left. Maine Senate race, and more stuff coming out about Plattner. I mean, now he's diminished and mocked a young girl's suicide attempt back in 2012. I mean, how much more is going to come out again with this guy?
I mean, Carl, it doesn't matter how much more is going to come out. I keep saying this. It doesn't matter if Graham Plattner went out there and killed someone tomorrow. Democrats have made clear that they're okay with that when they elected Jay Jones, who fantasized about murdering Republicans and their children. When they made that acceptable, they made everything that Graham Plattner has done and maybe will come out even acceptable on its own. So I don't think there's anything that's going to ruin Graham Plattner's chances. I think this is a question of whether Maine voters are smart enough to see that Susan Collins is pretty moderate as a Republican.
Yeah, exactly. It's so bizarre to me. Anyway, Brianna, Josh, we appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, President Trump sets the record straight on whether Iran will be rewarded for good behavior, but should they get anything at all? My thoughts, next.
Forget the warm-up. DirecTV got hot. They're on fire with more MLB games than anyone.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
How old are you?
11.
Does it ever feel like society is going up in flames, yet people don't have the strength to care? There's a hidden reason for that, and it may surprise you. Testosterone levels in American men are at an historic low, and it's testosterone that gives men the energy to be men. Support your own natural testosterone production with Chalk. Go to chalk.com/TV1 for your $17.76 discount. Chalk's all-American customer service team is standing by.
Steak is for dads, grill dads, tongue-snapping dads, united by their love of steak. His perfect gift is waiting, plus 8 free burgers. Get it in time for Father's Day at omahasteaks.com.
IRAs and 401ks were designed to account for a 2% rate of inflation. The idea was you could apply a 4% withdrawal rate and it would last. Inflation is at 3.8%, but when you account healthcare, insurance, food, and energy, the real rate is 8%. Gold's role isn't to make you rich. It's to help you survive what's coming. Call Patriot Gold Group at 1-800-778-4156. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide. The only firm nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the America 250 no fee for life IRA. Call 1-800-778-4156 and see how easy it is to protect your IRA with physical gold and silver. Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
That was the reason why I switched to Relay. It's so easy and seamless. Since switching to Relay, I've been able to pay myself, pull out my profit and tax accordingly, and have all of my accounts in the right places.
For many veterans, the hardest battles are fought alone. It doesn't need to be that way. Healing begins through connection. Reach out to Wounded Warrior Project for help.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist recommended Dermend and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Dermend moisturizing bruise cream in the first aid aisle.
We have a deal that's a fair deal. It's a good deal. We are not investing any money in Iran, by the way. That rumor got out there yesterday. It was ridiculous. We have the right to go in someday and do, if I want to do something or if somebody wants to do something, but we are not investing any money. We have no obligation to invest any money in Iran.
President Trump today at the G7 in France, squashing the rumors that there is any sort of American fund that Iran has access to as part of this deal between the two nations. But Vice President J.D. Vance said on Sunday that the Iranian government could and may have access to some capital. So let's just clear this up. What the heck is going on? You have two ways to solve a conflict. You can pound people into a parking lot, which is pretty much what Trump did for a little while, or you can incentivize better behavior. The left's new complaint after Trump bombed Iran, Democrats said he shouldn't have bombed Iran and he should try to make a deal. Then Trump tries to make a deal and didn't bomb them anymore. And then they said, oh, taco, Trump always chickens out. Then he did make a deal. And the same people are like, oh, how do you know Iran's going to stick to this deal? Because they don't stick to anything, which is not incorrect. But here's how you do it. You waive $300 billion of international, not American taxpayer dollars. These are international dollars coming from other countries. You waive that in their face in exchange for their nuclear dust and other compliance factors.
The Iranians are saying that they're going to have access to a $300 billion reconstruction fund. True or false?
That's the sort of thing they could have access to, funded by the Gulf Coast Coalition, so long as they honor their end of the obligation. I think that one of the things you're going to see, Ed, and people have to be skeptical of this, is that the hardliners in the Iranian system will overemphasize the benefits that Iran gets while underemphasizing all the things that they have to concede and all the things they have to provide in order to get these benefits.
Did you hear what he said, ladies, on The View? Iran could potentially have access to a fund that is not funded by America, but it's funded by the Gulf Coast Coalition. Get out your atlas. Look where that is. But getting that money is contingent on Iran holding up their end of the deal, a deal that has yet to be published despite all the liberal commentators just taking the Iranian propaganda talking points and opining on it anyway. Look, I don't think Iran should get any money for anything ever, but you know what? I'm not president. They have chanted death to America for decades. They've refused to comply on nuclear weapons, which is why Trump began this conflict in the first place. They've killed thousands of American troops, some of whom I served with. I got hit by an Iranian-made IED. They've been trying to assassinate President Trump and his family, by the way. And they have long-funded terror proxies like Hezbollah, which they still don't have under control, by the way, which Israel is kind of exploiting to keep this conflict going, to be honest. Recently, Israel has hit Hezbollah hard in Lebanon, despite Trump's request to hold off, with strikes in Beirut and other places. These strikes keep happening while Trump is working on finalizing this deal, leading to contentious calls between Trump and Netanyahu. Trump today saying that he and Netanyahu do have a strong relationship, but suggesting that Israel needs to dial it back when it comes to Hezbollah.
We've had a very effective relationship. Without us, without the United States, there would be no Israel. Without me, there would be no Israel, because no other president was willing to do what I did. I've had a great relationship with Bibi, but now Bibi has to be more responsible with respect to Lebanon.
Trump even saying it may be time for Israel to stop fighting Hezbollah and allow Syria to take the reins from there.
Israel's fighting Hezbollah too long, and too many people are being killed. And you don't have to knock down an apartment house every time you're looking for somebody, because there are a lot of people in those apartment houses, and they're not all Hezbollah, that I can tell you. And I suggested to Israel to let Syria take care of Hezbollah. Because to be honest with you, I think they do a better job of doing it.
Look, man, I get Trump's frustration on this. There are even reports that Israel asked to see the text of the memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran, and that the Trump administration denied that request at this time. Yesterday, Israel saying it will not fire on Hezbollah, though, if the ceasefire holds, but also saying it will not leave areas in Lebanon that it currently occupies. Yet today, Iran is like, okay, well, that's got to be part of the deal that Israel withdraws from Lebanon. This is all over the place, man. This goes back to the point. Why should we trust Iran with anything, let alone billions and billions of dollars? What do they have to rebuild? It's not like the U.S. was taking out their infrastructure. I think we should have. But our strikes were focused on their military targets, which we don't want them to have anyway. Look, I was against launching these strikes initially. But since they happened, I have advocated for going all the way, like destruction of the Iranian regime entirely. Bridges, power plants, everything, because I want to send a message with this to the rest of the world. But apparently Trump has figured out a way to do it, actually, without killing everybody in a regime that has also spoken only pretty much death. I'd also like to take the time to say that I did tell you that Trump was going to get this done, and the left went berserk on that. Like, I got Google alerts from all these leftist publications that were like, there's no way, it's just not going to happen, it's going to be a forever war. And it turns out it looks like it's not. And what's oil under, like, it got down to under $75 a barrel today? Like, maybe a little bit of faith. The guy kind of hasn't let us down. We got the Fed meeting tomorrow, too. Who knows? Maybe this inflation is coming down fast enough with the end of this conflict that we might actually get some cuts in interest rates. I don't know. Maybe trust the guy. I do. All right, before we go, a strip of land in America with population 0. No consequences. What could possibly go wrong? I'm going to tell you where next.
You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt tonight on Newsmax.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
Your mouthwash routine just got a whole lot smarter. Use Smart Mouth Activated Morning Mouthwash with B12 for all-day bad breath prevention. Guaranteed. If your mouthwash isn't activated, it's not Smart Mouth. Kickstart your morning. Get Smart Mouth Activated Mouthwash with B12.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Dad is a legend. Who can we thank for that? There were generations of dads who passed down their legacies. Discover who they were and how they led to you with an Ancestry Family History membership. See your roots and where those stories came from with an Ancestry DNA kit. Put them together, and there you are. Give thanks to Dad during our Father's Day sale.
The first time I experienced vertigo, the room was spinning, like I was in a clothes dryer. Then I started taking Lipo Balance Support. Its ingredients are clinically shown to help reduce dizziness and spinning. Take back control with lipoflavonoid.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms can keep coming back.
Break away to what's possible with Tremfya.
The only IL-23 blocker for Crohn's and UC to offer self-administration from the start.
Tremfya can help with symptom relief as early as 4 weeks, remission at 12 weeks, 1 year, and 2 years.
Some had visible repair of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Break away with Tremfya.
Backed by over 15 years of clinical research. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
If you ever thought about committing a crime, I got the place for you to do it. There is this 50 square mile strip of land inside a federally declared area of Yellowstone National Park, where some people argue you could literally get away with murder. It's literally named the Zone of Death. It's a small section of Yellowstone National Park that actually falls into Idaho's border, where literally 0 people live in this section. Now, according to the U.S. Constitution, it is guaranteed to be convicted of anything that a defendant has the right to a jury or a trial made up of people from the state and the district where the crime was committed. But because nobody lives there on that strip, there's quite literally impossible to fulfill that Sixth Amendment right. 0 population, 0 jury, 0 consequences, I guess. What could go wrong? I don't know. And the crazy thing about this is Congress has actually been told about this, Rob, for years. They did nothing.
I know why you're excited about this.
Yeah, I am, buddy.
The bloodlust in this one right here is insatiable.
Antifa, meet me there.
Yeah, right. Good God. All right, Carl, good to see you.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.